Hey everyone, James here from the Italian Genre Film Reviews channel, and today going to be talking about a Poliziotteschi Highway Racer 1977. Been bouncing a lot between giallos and Poliziotteschi's. Personally, I love both genres, so excited to come back to the Poliziotteschi's. There's a couple of those 80 gialli I've covered here. So today, so this is a film that I saw for the first time a few years back and recently revisited it because it came out on the Arrow Blu-ray, and it's a film I liked on first viewing. I wouldn't say I absolutely loved it. It's interesting to come back to these because I recently came back to another one of the tough ones. And for me, this one actually rose a bit in my memory, and the tough ones actually went down a little bit. And a lot of that kind of depends. We'll get into the film a little bit later. I think part of it is because this is just a very, very unique Poliziotteschi. And once you've seen, for me, I've seen probably about 150 of these already. And so you get very, very much used to the tropes. And I do like a lot of the tropes, but you can appreciate sort of when these films swerve or do something a little bit different. And for me, that's certainly the case with this film, where I really, really did enjoy the revisit just a little bit more. Whereas the tough ones, this film I also liked on my first watch. And I find to just be very, very derivative. So I mention that because they're a year apart, and they both are starring Maurizio Merli, who is one of the faces of Italian Eurocrime Poliziotteschi films. It's impossible to avoid him. Fans tend to be a little bit divided on him. Some are very much Merli fans, others are not. For those not familiar, he basically specialized in playing these roles of just being the very, very tough cop. He had a stash. In this film, he doesn't. That's maybe the most surface level difference, which feels very, very different actually, because it just gives him a very, very different look. And he just plays a very tough cop that is very much already fully formed, ready to fight the law, and basically the things that get in his way are the laws. So these are films that are often characterized as being very, very potentially fascist, very pro-police. So they tend to kind of get very, very mixed responses. For me, I do enjoy those films. I wouldn't say they're my absolute favorite of the genre, but I do like them. So I had originally planned on bringing the tough ones on, and this film as well, and the tough ones I just didn't have a lot to say. So Highway Racer, I think I have a lot more to talk and discuss about, and I'm curious to hear other people's opinions too, especially now that this Arrow release has been out for a while, so fans have been able to really dig into those films too. So here is the quick synopsis here. Devil May Care driving car ace Marco Palma of the Rome's Police Mobile Squad has a reputation for risk-taking, making him the perfect candidate for an undercover op to take down Il Nizzardo, who is kind of this bank robber, but basically just this crazy driver who's basically driving around doing a bunch of crimes and stuff like that. So one of the interesting things that I really found out from this Arrow release is they have this great essay on it that I think is done by Roberto Curti, who really knows his stuff. And this essay talks about how this is actually based off of a real-life affair. In some ways, that's unsurprising. A lot of these Poliziotteschi's are based off of real life and use that as inspiration. But the way that this uses it as inspiration is quite a bit different. This is based off of more of a real-life police figure rather than like what are the latest crimes that are going on in Rome or Milan during that specific time. So it is interesting, and I think that adds a certain richness to the characters knowing that. And the real-life story basically summarized goes that there is this mobile squad in Rome, and they had this really, really ace driver that basically the Taliaferri, the character is based off of him. That's who plays the mentor to Palma, who is the Merli character, and that character is based off of a real life figure who did a number of chases in the 50s and 60s. Eventually, there were a couple actual Ferraris that were donated to the police department, partly an inspiration for this. It was kind of a promo for Enzo Ferrari and his company. And so one of the drivers that did that, of course, is the character Taliaferri is based off of. So this is perhaps the most car-centric Poliziotteschi Eurocrime film out there, which is kind of fun because these films they have some really, really incredible car stunts, and this might be the ultimate one. Do I think it has the absolute best car chase scene ever? No, I think there are a couple within Italian genre films that I do prefer a little bit. Maybe the Italian Connection one that remains a personal favorite of mine. But this one has a lot, and most of them are very, very much quite impressive and just fun to see them going down the streets. So it's nice to see them in just really, really good quality as you get to on this Arrow Blu-ray. Previously, I don't know, I'd watch maybe a DVD rip at best, but potentially even a VHS rip. I've seen a lot of these films in 360 or even 240 quality, so it's nice to just see these films get a little bit of love. Okay, so I haven't really talked about the creator of this film yet. So this is directed by Stelvio Massi, who is a film that if you watch a lot of Eurocrime, you've undoubtedly seen something by him. Sort of got his mark making a film series, Mark the Narc, which is about a narcotics detective. There's, I believe, 3 films within that series. And then eventually working with Merrily a bunch on a bunch of different films. And this is right in that era. This one stands out as being quite different. Most of them are more in that tough cop mode. And this one, Merrily just plays a very, very different character there. Massi also did one Jolly, which is, pretty functional, 5 Women for the Killer. Overall, I characterize him as a very functional director. I don't know that he totally stands out as being excellent at anything, but he has a lot of films that I enjoy but don't necessarily love. And so, like a lot of people, he got his start in spaghetti westerns. Interestingly, he also was started as a cinematographer. I think this film is quite handsome and looks quite good. You could tell it also had a little bit more of a budget, too. And these Italian genre films just have such a great advantage of, like, the home field advantage of just having these great, rich architecture and landscapes to visit. And in many ways, this film can be viewed as sort of like using Rome as the playground for these basically kids or Italian genre filmmakers, in this case, doing crazy stunts and having just a lot of fun bouncing through the city. One of the things that's based off of real life that I got from the booklet, thank you, Curti, is they have a brief shot of cars going down the Spanish Steps, which is a famous location in Rome, which is apparently where an actual criminal decided to go down that, and so the driver that Taliaferro is based off of actually did chase them down here. So there's just a lot of stuff. There's some great slow-mo here, and it's just a lot of fun. So this one, I would say, is definitely a little bit more of a chill, laid-back one. It's not heavy in the sleaze. It's not terribly intense either. One other thing that is interesting as far as like the plot and character goes is that I feel like this plot feels a lot more fully formed and even modern compared to a lot of these sometimes very, very paper-thin Italian Poliziotteschi Eurocrimes. There's an actual character arc here, and in some ways it actually reminds me of a lot of those Hong Kong films that were created in the 70s and 80s, the martial arts ones, where basically the character starts as being like getting clowned by the villains and basically needs to train and has a montage under a mentor, maybe similar to Rocky as well, before kind of like becoming fully formed. And it's quite a contrast to Merrily's normal character that he plays, where he really does start as a fully formed crime-fighting machine in like most of these films, like Violent Rome, Violent Naples, Violent Italy. All those films, he kind of just starts already, just ready to go. And in this film, he has an actual character arc, which is interesting. I would say Merrily is mostly up to this. I'd probably give him a B-. He was originally cast in these films for his likeness with the great Italian genre actor Franco Nero, who is probably most recently in the John Wick films, but who is really, really good in a lot of these films. I think Nero is legitimately a great actor. It would have been wonderful to see him in this role because I think he probably would have brought just an additional gravitas to it. Merrily is functional. I would say Nero would have been great in this. So it's too bad we didn't get that film. But, I'm not going to complain too much. And I do appreciate seeing Merrily in a different film. So if you come into this film expecting like those heavy sleaze or a Mitzi or Merrily film, you'll probably be disappointed. I think this film, in many ways, is just kind of is more just straight fun. And I saw someone on Letterboxd even say that it was a little more family friendly as far as a Poliziotteschi, and that's mostly true. There are some intense moments, like Merrily's partner kind of hits a demise. There are characters getting gunned down and shot. There are people put into peril. But as far as like these Poliziotteschi is really pushing the limits and stuff like that, this is definitely not that. Another fun thing with this too is the plot bears some pretty surface level similarities to Fast and Furious, which kind of lends itself towards that the thesis I have of this being a little bit more contemporary and modern and having a little bit more going on in the plot. The original Fast and Furious, for those that don't remember, is actually more of an undercover cop film with a lot of car stunts going on and stuff like that. And so this one actually does have an undercover cop element to it, where Palma, Marilee's character, has to go undercover into the villain Il Nizzardo's gang and basically infiltrate them and get information in order to bust them. So the villain in this film is also kind of interesting in the sense that it is Nizzardo, where driving is very, very much his identity. And so he's different in the sense that he's not like fully evil in that same sense, but he's very much created as a foil for Taliaferri as well. And in terms of looks, I wouldn't say totally in terms of character. He reminds me a lot of Lalo Salamanca, for Better Call Saul fans, without the menace and stuff to him. So not necessarily the absolute best, but I enjoy it just as kind of like a really, really nice change of pace too. So yeah, I really do enjoy this film. It has, as many of these films do, a great soundtrack. This one done by Stelvio Cipriani. And the last thing that absolutely must go worth mentioning is the stunts were done by Julienne Remy and his team, who are some of the most famous pioneers of car stunts around. And they're just doing great work here. He would go on to have a little bit more of a budget in kind of those James Bond films in the 1980s, but here you get to see him probably just totally unleashed with a pretty good solid Italian genre film budget to work with here. So yeah, just really, really fun stuff here. So who won? You know, I'm going to give it to Julienne Remy. I think it's just a great showcase for his talents and the talents of his team. And rating 7.5. It's not the best Eurocrime film, but I think if you go in and understand sort of the stakes and the expectations here, it's a very, very enjoyable one. So thank you all for tuning in. Let me know how you like this film and how you like this review, and I will see you all next time.